You get an audition for House of the Dragon, and then the casting directors are there, and they're like, all right, Jennifer Zhang, can you show us your tits? Hey everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of Manic Pixie Screen Girls, where we dissect film and television while getting a little crazy. I'm your host, Kaitlyn. I'm a filmmaker, actor, writer, and musician.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Zhang. I'm an actor, writer, and gamer.
And tonight, we are going to be diving into the very first episode of HBO's new fantasy show, House of the Dragon.
Okay. What would you say is your overall impression after seeing the first episode?
If my impression were a face, it would be like this.
Okay. Now put it into words. Like, what does that mean?
I really enjoyed that first episode.
Okay.
It pretty much exceeded my expectations.
Same.
In terms of the tone and the lore and the writing and the direction and the music and the set pieces. I was kind of crossing my fingers, being optimistically hopeful about whether or not this would be a worthy successor to Game of Thrones.
Or predecessor.
Or, yes.
Successive predecessor.
A successful...
A sexy successive predecessor.
There you go. I can't talk right now. As you know, I have kind of complicated feelings about the last couple seasons.
Only you?
Well,
only you had complicated no. All of us had complicated feelings about the final few seasons of Game of Thrones, we would say, especially the last season. So yeah. I would agree. I think this was a very strong comeback or pre-comeback, so to speak. Anyway, we're going there. We're going there. Cocks have been bloodied on this show, okay?
And vaginas too.
And vaginas.
Yes.
We're seeing characters that we have no prior knowledge about, but I think the show did a really good job of introducing who was who in an expository fashion, but it was still very clear.
It was, yeah. For those of you who don't know, House of the Dragon is actually based off of Fire and Blood, which is the 2018 kind of Silmarillion-esque history lore book that George R.R. Martin released. And the cool thing about this particular story is there are 3 different historical accounts, right? Kind of like Maester's writing different stories.
That's
or something
awesome.
like that.
Or like Frankenstein, where
exactly.
there's like a frame narrative.
But we, the audience, we don't know yet how HBO is going to take that narrative and turn it into the series that we see today. So it's going to be exciting for all of us. Jen, do you want to give us a recap of the first episode?
We start off with King Viserys, who is essentially trying to produce an heir. He and his wife, Aemma, I don't know how to really correctly produce.
Is it Aemma?
If I'm offending any Targaryens out there, I apologize. But
his wife or his sister?
His sister wife?
We don't know yet. We need to look that one up.
I don't know if Aemma is his younger sister. More than likely, she probably
They're
is.
more than likely relatives of some kind, because in Westeros, if you guys don't know this, incest is wincest, at least for the Targaryens. So
absolutely. Well, I mean, having, shockingly white blonde hair is a heavily recessive gene. So
yeah,
one would have to inbreed to sustain that over generations.
That's true. But do you ever think maybe the reason there's madness in their line is because, realistically speaking, if people just kept marrying and breeding with their brothers and sisters, their children would be severely
isn't that what caused
messed
hemophilia?
Up.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Oh, definitely. I think that's what's heavily implied.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
So, to recap, basically, Viserys was chosen over his elder sister as the heir to the
Rhaenys, right? Rhaenys?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he, in turn, is trying to produce an heir. So he has about like a teenage daughter named Rhaenyra, who is really excellently cast, by the way. And she is not named the heir initially because he wants to produce a son. His wife is currently pregnant, and so he is holding a jousting tourney to celebrate the coming of his future son. And at this jousting tourney, we get some court intrigue. We get introduced to a mysterious visitor who turns out to be the Dornish lord, Kristen.
Yeah. Sir Criston.
That sounded so
whoever that is.
So Filipino.
That's how she said it. She said
from the
Sir
Philippines.
Criston. Yeah. That's what she said.
Latin flavored towns.
I'll take it.
Yes. Anyway, so anyway, after the tourney, the wife has a very shockingly non-anesthesia C-section, which was very traumatizing to watch, honestly. But she does produce a son who only lives for a day.
Also known as Balon, the heir who lived for a day.
The heir
for a day. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, I think we're forgetting a very important character.
Oh, yeah.
The dashing Matt Smith, who plays Prince Daemon Targaryen, who is kind of your, how shall I say this? He looks nothing like Tyrion Lannister, but he kind of almost functions in a similar way in the sense that he's the younger brother who's kind of a disappointment, hangs out at whorehouses. But unlike Tyrion, this guy has ambition. And I think they're trying to set him up as kind of a villain-esque type character. Although this is a Game of Thrones universe, you never know where things are going to go. But he's obviously eyeing the throne very thirstily.
Yeah.
There was a scene there with his niece, Rhaenyra, which, again, incest being wincest in this show, made me feel uncomfortable, but only because I kind of liked it. And I was like, stop that, brain, stop that. But I don't know. Remember, these Targaryens tend to intermarry with one another, so.
They do. And I think there was, that was intentional. The fact that he was kind of flirtatious with Rhaenyra, his niece. And it gave flashbacks of Jon Snow and Daenerys. Because
another
aunt nephew.
Wincest.
Yep.
Wincest situation. Yeah.
Everyone wins in Wincest. That's the long and short of that joke. It seems as though Daemon Targaryen is actually very much interested in winning the Iron Throne for himself.
Right, but right now the council at King's Landing is kind of at an impasse. They don't know who they're going to pass the throne along to once King Viserys presumably dies.
Yeah.
There is speak of Prince Daemon, right? But he's considered kind of a bad person in the sense that he hasn't proved the most capable leader in different areas in which he's been left in charge, and he's kind of a womanizer, right?
He behaves rashly and makes poor decisions. Like he leads his
such a Targaryen.
Yeah, he's like very much the heiress predecessor.
Right.
In that way. So like he and his gold cloaks storm the city and basically like violently mutilate all manner of criminals as a way to intimidate.
It kind of looks like they're also killing innocent people, so he just kind of went there, right? Rhaenys,
yeah.
Which is kind of like
who is Viserys' sister, the one that did not get the crown.
Yes, right, correct. That person is also kind of up for grabs on the throne, but the person they end up choosing
is Rhaenyra. And that's because of a very key scene. Two of my favorite scenes, actually, in this episode are the one between King Viserys and Daemon, when he finally, up until this moment, King Viserys has always been so pure of heart, in a slightly Ned Starky, but also slightly Bobby Baratheon kind of way.
Bobby B.
Bobby B. Only in that, like, he wants to believe the good in his brother. He wants to believe that all Targaryens stand together.
Yes.
So, like, against his better judgment, he is unable to see that his brother's ambition is far greater than he is able to actually make plans for.
Right.
But when he finally finds out that Daemon has basically slighted him and was celebrating the death of his son, he banishes him from court, right? And that is the turning moment, the turning point that lets him name Rhaenyra as his heir.
Right. There was a really impactful scene for me where the two are kind of going at it in the throne room. Daemon knows he's in deep shit for celebrating after the queen and her son have died. And it was kind of like one of those, family barbecues where someone gets mad at their cousin and they're like, I stuck up for you. I covered to mom and dad for you. I freaking hid your drugs for you. How dare you treat me like this, you piece of shit. That was kind of the dynamic going on. So I was like, so that was cool.
Definitely.
But yeah, Rhaenyra ends up on the throne, or not on the throne, but she is named the heir apparent.
Yes.
Right?
My second favorite scene, I was going to say, was when King Viserys speaks to Rhaenyra in the Dragon Crypt. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And he basically reveals the secret to her that's been passed down to all...
what was the secret again?
The secret was that winter is coming.
Oh, right. We all know how that ends.
We all know that, it hurts so bad because, like, when that was happening, it was such a brilliant moment, and I think it was executed in such a poetic way. We knew exactly what that meant.
Right.
Except
little did they know that winter was one night at Winterfell.
Yeah. And
like a bad one night stand.
It just took one girl to,
yes.
Well, one woman, one very talented woman, and a very sharp plot device to bring
and
down
one
the
big
Night King.
blue icy MacGuffin.
Yes.
Anyway, so we got through the synopsis.
So it was bittersweet, but at the same time, like, it gave me a lot of hope because that was a very poetic line of dialogue.
Yeah.
What do you think? What is your opinion on how Rhaenyra is taking this news? Because it seems as though she's like plucky. She's always been more precocious, right? Like, it seems as though she'd be really fitting as a ruler, but she never imagined herself as a ruler. But now that she's been given this, like, this title, what do you think she's going through? Or
it's interesting because even though she claims she doesn't care about the throne, my perception of it is that it's true, she's not a politician. She's not an ambitious person in that sense. She's kind of like an Arya, right? She wants to ride her dragons. And she does speak at some point about, creating a new world, kind of Daenerys-esque way.
Classic ambitious Targaryen.
Yeah, but for me, it's like, is she really ambitious, or is she just hurt that her father never considered her important enough, right?
Yeah.
It's like...
But that's very similar to Daenerys, because she was never considered as important as her brother, Viserys.
It's true. I think that Daenerys eventually embraces her place as the, as a leader, as a Dothraki leader, and as the mother of dragons. I don't know about Rhaenyra. I have a feeling she's going to eventually embrace it, because... I think that's just where this show is headed in terms of drama and conflict. But it was interesting how, she doesn't have to say things outright, but you can kind of see on her face.
Absolutely.
That
she's remarkable. The actor is incredible.
It's kind of like, okay, I don't care. I don't want to go to your wedding, but you should have invited me. How dare you did not invite me to your wedding?
Absolutely.
It's like, I don't really want to rule, but how dare you didn't even consider me,
Absolutely. But, the earnestness with which King Viserys approached her with his final, naming of her was so sincere that I think some amount of her kind of forgives him for that.
Yeah, I think at one point we were meant to think that he was this really awful person because he sacrifices his wife.
Right.
But when you see him crying over his dead wife's corpse...
He does love her.
Yeah, I realized, oh, you know what? He does love her. But he's
thinking as a ruler of a realm.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. A part of me was thinking you could have talked to her at least to let her know what was up.
Yeah.
If you were gonna sacrifice your wife, you might as well let her know the stakes of the situation instead of being like, shh, it's all gonna be over soon. That was like a horror film.
That was horrific.
That was graphic even for Game of Thrones, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't ever get a C-section without anesthesia.
Without proper milk of the poppy.
An experimental C-section. We heard about them doing this to women out there.
Oh my god. Yeah, so it's funny because the first 20 minutes or so, I was like, oh, okay, no more sexposition. It's a different kind of show. And then I see a bloody cock being ripped out in my face. I'm like, oh, no, this is Game of Thrones.
It's still sexposition.
Yeah, but you know what?
Dismembered sex.
Yeah, the novels are pretty much like that too. So to be fair, I think they're just trying to carry on the spirit of the novels.
For sure.
But, yeah.
And I will say, back to the crypt conversation between Viserys and Rhaenyra, I felt the line, what makes us Targaryens different from other people? nothing really sets us apart from other people apart from the fact that they believe that we're closer to the dragons and therefore closer to the gods, but without them, we're really just normal people.
Right.
You know, which I thought was so brave because in some ways, yes, like even in creating the show, we're led to think like, oh, House Targaryen, they're so special, they're so different, there's something exceptional about them, right? And I think like what's dangerous about that ambition is that American exceptionalism, Targaryen exceptionalism is actually, I would say, this is my dissertation, is actually a cause for madness. Because in believing that you are in some ways exceptional.
Wait, you're telling me that I'm mentally ill because I thought I was special?
In some ways, yeah.
I mean,
no, I mean special enough to rule and dominate over all. I do think that like, you know, that Targaryen syndrome that you see in Aerys 2, the Mad King, the one that you see in Daemon now, or in Daenerys in her latter season, which was executed
her last
poorly.
couple
her last like tumble down the hill.
Yeah.
You see that because they so deeply believe in this superiority that is almost like heaven ordained. Right. But like that's what makes this conversation in the crypt so crucial is that this Viserys actually has a really good heart and really good reasoning too, which we know doesn't last long in Westeros.
Yeah.
The key important takeaway I think of that conversation between them in the crypt is that he's explaining to her that to be a good ruler, you have to think about the realm. You have to think about your people.
Yes.
Here's an oncoming threat, right? Which was supposed to be the whole theme of Game of Thrones, right? Like
global warming. What?
Global warming. I don't know, capitalism, imperialism in some ways.
Yeah, liberals and conservatives, we need to put away our swords and worry about the incoming White Walker / global warming invasion.
Seriously though?
Seriously.
But yeah, because, and I think that's really valuable knowledge because in order for her to be a good ruler, she has to recognize that it's really not about being the one in power. It's about being influential enough to create harmony and a better world for the future children of the world.
Yes,
right?
Agreed. Let me ask you, what was your favorite part of this first episode?
Oh, well, it would have to be the crypt scene. Oh, right.
Okay, the crypt scene.
What was your favorite part?
I don't know. Strangely enough, oh God.
You had too many favorite parts.
There was the Wincest scene. I'm just kidding. No,
which Wincest?
I know, right? The birth scene juxtaposed with the jousting scenes, which is again a reintroduction to this world of violence. It's a chaotic world. It's a world that we're not used to. This is
anything goes.
The Leviathan. Yeah. It's so pretty much anything goes. And as much as I love the throne room and council room talk, which they're finally bringing back, which is sorely missing from the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones, this also was a big slap in the face. Like, you should know what you're signing up for. You know, this world, they take no prisoners. You know, it's a game of you win or you die.
Everyone is fallible.
Everyone is fallible.
Like in life. Like in history.
Like in history.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing too, like on a meta level, how there's 3 different written versions of this narrative, kind of like how
how is that done in the book? Like you said,
I don't know because I stayed away from it.
Worries,
yeah. But it's like going along with this idea that history is written by the winners, right? The victors.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna see, they're gonna have to pick and choose a side here to show us, and hopefully it's the most interesting side. What predictions can you make? For you who know nothing about this narrative.
I feel like Lady Alicent, who is the daughter of
You mean Marjorie Tyrell?
Yeah, basically. I mean,
the proto Marjorie,
prototype Tyrell. Girl, turn on seduction button.
She's like, would you like to see my etching?
Look.
Oh, okay. I will say for that scene, I thought she was going to go full on seductress, but she genuinely looked that, and that's the kicker. That's how you get people. That's how you get people. You genuinely show sympathy, and I don't even think she was faking it.
No,
and that's the beautiful part. I think
is true Tyrell fashion.
No, but I really, I don't. Question, maybe I'm naive. Does she know what she's doing?
She knows.
Okay,
I
she has to
absolutely
know,
think that
right?
she knows. I think the Tyrell trait is that they know how to empathize and they know what is humane, but they will use their humanity for the good of the realm, for the good of the family.
And to their advantage.
And to their advantage.
Yeah, but she really sold me. I love that scene where she says that line. Everybody was spinning me tales when my mother died, but I just wanted for once to hear, like, I'm sorry. And she says, I'm so sorry.
And that was so gratifying.
That was really good. Yeah. She could have flung her panties off and done it Westeros style, right?
Oh, he wouldn't have gone for it.
Dothraki style. Yeah, but he wouldn't have gone for it.
Right.
And I think that's a far more poignant way of getting into someone's heart.
So do you think, she might have a baby in there after this evening?
I mean, well, I don't know. It's not clear whether or not they hooked up, right? Yeah. For all we know, I think it was a long con, right? Especially since they had that actress, they kind of cast her young looking. If I'm not mistaken, there's probably going to be some kind of a time skip within the next couple episodes.
It seems like it from the previews.
Yeah, because this story the conflict hasn't even taken off yet. This is all set up.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. I don't know if this is in the original. It might be, but they placed it such that Alicent Hightower is like buddies, right, with Rhaenyra.
Yes.
She's her handmaiden, and kind of makes me wonder, like, when she was doing her hair for the ceremony, it's like, I'm banging your dad, what is that like?
Absolutely.
So there's in the previews they show something like someone's holding a knife to someone, so obviously there's going to be some hurt feelings there.
But there's also something between King Viserys and him kind of stroking Alicent in somewhat of a personal way.
Yes, I mean,
so I think that's going to deepen.
Of course, suffice to say, alliances will be made, sides will be taken, blood will be spilt,
all in good Game of Thrones fashion. That's what we were missing, was that so much of the latter seasons of Game of Thrones was kind of like a means to an end, right? There seemed to be like a lot of sacrifice of the flavor of Game of Thrones to reach some kind of strong conclusion.
Absolutely,
right? But like in this series, you're seeing that a lot of the court intrigue, a lot of the politics, and a lot of strong character intent are being interwoven in the way that brings a lot of interesting, flavor to this. Because honestly, without multiple heads butting, there would be no interesting conflict, and that's something that we want.
There would be zero conflict. Yeah, exactly. What I love about George R.R. Martin's work is not only is he great at kind of constructing conflict from a plot perspective, but he's able to do it with so many damn parties involved. And he does things where he sets things up, and yet when the twist occurs, you're still kind of blindsided.
Yep.
And it's a kind of a testament to these showrunners that they're able to do it in a way that's not super obvious.
This being a Game of Thrones spin-off, did you see any references that you especially flagged in your brain?
I thought, we were talking about this earlier with the others, I do think that they did a brilliant job of incorporating little elements and throwbacks and Easter eggs for the people who did watch Game of Thrones. Like the Game of Thrones theme. Na 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 na, which is composer.
They've added like a triad arpeggio inside.
They do variations on the music that we so know and love, which was great.
And by Ramin Djawadi.
Yes, and I will not throw shade at other shows, but I will say,
she will bite her tongue, sir.
I do bite my thumb, sir.
Bite her thumb. Sorry.
I will bite my tongue as well. What I love about this first episode, at least, is the fact that they took the elements that they knew worked for Game of Thrones and they incorporated it here. And again, I will try to limit bashing the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones to minimum. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll do a special episode on that. But, what really sold people on Game of Thrones were just these private discussions held in a throne room or in a council room. And the kind of mind games or rhetoric or philosophy that gets thrown about. And then it became about dragons and cocks and titties and abandoned plot lines.
When you mistake the dressing for the meat, things go awry.
Yes.
Right?
Things go to
the
shite.
X-rated things are kind of like icings on the cake.
I'm all for shock value sometimes, because sometimes it does give a certain flavor and a vibe, and it gives you that kind of it's the dopamine effect, right?
Well, it's also
the high stakes.
The realness of the stakes.
The realness of the stakes, I get that. That's important to storytelling. But if you're making that the focus of it, when the focus initially was the good conversation, story building, and character building, I think you're going to start losing audience members.
What pepperings in this episode give you clues to show that this is indeed a Game of Thrones show?
Let me count the ways. I mean, I know people were cheering over that Rickon Stark Easter egg because this is a Targaryen show, and the Targaryen family is, let's face it, it's the family that got the least shine in Game of Thrones, mostly because almost all of them were dead, right? And it was all about the Starks. I think nowadays, if we see a Stark, we might go, "Oh my God, a Stark!" But it's gonna be mostly, right? The Targaryens. So that was cool, and the guy from Dorne, Lord Sir Criston, that was kind of cool because, you know, he was kicking ass, he was taking names at the tourney, kind of reminiscent of the Viper.
Yes.
Right?
That entire tete-a-tete between him and Daemon at the very end really gave Mountain and the Viper vibes.
Viper also, I like to call him Daddy, but, you know, maybe that's just me.
He's my daddy, okay? I mean, I guess we could share.
We might have to fight for this daddy.
2 Manic Pixie Screen Girls and 1 daddy.
But hey, if we were Targaryens, it would be fine.
Daddy Pascal, though, by the way, is coming out in The Last of Us on HBO.
That's right. We'll do another episode on that.
And anyway. One other thing, a reference with Daemon shield bashing his opponent, which apparently I've been told is a fair play thing after a joust.
We just found out apparently that's a thing.
Yeah. After a joust, the victor can actually just actively fight the loser.
Now, is that a Game of Thrones thing, or is that a medieval
European
thing? Really?
A medieval thing.
Wow.
So basically he's like shield bashing his victim, and it's kind of reminiscent of like Tyrion in Blackwater Bay.
Oh, right, when he
makes his
got
first
a shield
kill,
or no, he had an axe, didn't he?
He had an axe, but he also had a shield.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was kind of like his first loss of innocence sort of way, like you know, court boy getting his like coats
right before he gets
unclean.
his nose chopped off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a nice way to harken back to like, oh, okay, a new series has begun. Like that's
right. And one of those guys, was it Sir Criston? He had like a mace?
Yes.
Or something?
Which broke through shields. It was a very smart weapon.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder about like, is that fair? I mean, I guess a sword is pretty powerful too, but I always feel like people have spikes.
What if like...
You just go like that and you're already like hurting them.
What I felt like throughout Game of Thrones is that nothing is really fair. Like whatever you can do is fair play. It's almost like Murphy's Law medieval edition. As 2 resident Asian American viewers of the show, what did you think of the newly peppered in diversity of the show?
Newly peppered in diversity. Okay, well, let's count. So we had Lord Corlys Valerion, right? I think that's how you say his last name. Now, I am not super well versed in Targaryen bloodlines, but I know there was a bit of a hubbub, right?
Really? Of course there was.
Yeah, concerning the fact that they hired black actors to play Targaryens. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also a similar controversy with the upcoming Amazon Lord of the Rings show, because there are like dark elves, but people are saying they're not really dark. They're dark because they were like away from the sun. Yeah. So,
This is a deeper question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
No, I don't think it's something to have a problem with.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, it is a lot of people have a problem with it, you know?
And that's something to be talked about. You
right.
know, like, where does that come from?
Well, one of the more common complaints here, or rather a point that has been made, is that this entire world, Planetos, if you want to call it, is really a diverse place.
Of course, because it's based on actual Earth.
Yeah, where they could have actually incorporated different
people of different
ethnic backgrounds from like the Summer Isles, for example,
or Yee.
I
mean, you see Sonoya Mizuno play. Basically, this series is Roz as like head concubine of the harem, kind of.
Well, presumably her character is from Yee, just because she looks Asian, if you ask me. And that was their way of kind of incorporating. But
which I honestly think is a smart move. In some ways,
I feel like they could go farther with it.
I think that they could.
Because King's Landing is supposed to be kind of a melting pot of different ethnic groups.
Amen to that. Yeah. And that's exactly the point that I wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
At the height of the Targaryen power and at the height of King's Landing, we should actually see that this is like the New York City melting pot of Westeros.
Yes, because Westeros is kind of like a conglomerate of different kingdoms.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's a port by the sea.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to be fair, it's mostly white people. Don't get me wrong. But King's Landing is a port city, right? Where there would be different people from like Essos and Sotherios, right?
I mean, it is like a Western medievalist fantasy.
Yeah.
And the region is called Westeros, so like we would assume that everything is based on medieval Europe.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, it is according to George R. R. Martin, who wrote it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was based on the War of the Roses and all that good stuff from history. So I think it's super well done.
Yeah. No, I going back to the point of Lord Corlys, it's kind of like, I appreciate that they did kind of color conscious typecasting here, because they knew that if they were going to stick to the main players as laid down in the story, you're not going to really have any non-white people in it. And since there's no bending the rules there, I appreciate that they got some black people in it. And I would love to see more people of color. I saw some people in the background, like there was an Asian handmaiden, right?
There was. We were.
Yeah, I was like,
Asian person. But that's always what happens, right?
Yeah,
that's always what happens until like the work of representation moves forward. Like we can only progress from here.
Yeah.
Like the key takeaway for me too is how it enhances the story.
Yeah, and it's not in your face.
And that's what you were meaning to say about color conscious casting rather than color blind casting.
Yes.
You know, we're not just kind of like switching things out for like just because like, oh, we're all the same or whatever.
Honestly, it didn't seem pandery to me at all. It seemed tasteful, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Well, you know, people of color deserve to have roles that are written for them to play. You know, that roles that make sense for them to play, that they can fully embody. You know, and own for themselves. So I thought, you know, this was a really powerful move.
Yes.
And I want to see more of them, honestly.
Oh, I have a question.
I want to see more of us BIPOC.
Well, you're just gonna have to write to your agent and tell season 2 Game of Thrones. I mean, House of the Dragon. Yeah.
Please let me audition for Half a Dragon.
Imagine you walk in.
Jennifer. Amen.
You get an audition for House of the Dragon, and then the casting directors are there, and they're like, "All right, Jennifer Zhang, can you show us your tits?" I'll do it for Game of Thrones, for freaking House of the Dragon. I'll show all my titties. All 5 of my titties. All 5 of my titties. I want to be on that show, man.
Please. Dude, show all 5.5 of my tits.
Yes.
Please. All that to say, I'm very glad that they did what they did with this season.
Yeah.
With this series.
I was going to ask you, besides that tangent, are there any characters in particular that you're like, ooh, I'm interested? Like, I'm kind of interested in learning more about that character.
You know, from the first second that she walked on screen, the young actor that plays Rhaenyra, she like immediately gripped me. It's something in her poise and her character. She's so self-assured and so in charge of herself, but in like a kind of like glint in her eye sort of way.
You know what's interesting? You might find this interesting. I was watching some of the behind the scenes interviews with the actors, and that actress in particular, she was talking about how on her first day on set, she was so nervous. She was mic'd up. She was convinced that people could hear her heart beating in the microphone. You know, because hello, it's Game of Thrones, and there's a lot riding on this. So when you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she's a relative unknown when you're kind of working with like big actors alongside like Matt Smith. You know, I can see how it's kind of nerve-wracking, but from what I'm seeing on this first episode, I think they did pretty good casting.
Really amazing casting.
Yeah, really
she
good.
even has kind of like a little visual callback to Emilia Clarke. Have you noticed that?
In what way?
A certain like roundedness of the forehead, like almost like slightly chubby cheeks.
They both have
they have like
childlike
dainty,
faces.
cherubic features. Yeah.
I'm going to upset some Matt Smith fans right now, but I will say it right now. Let me preface it. I'm already a fan. Based off what I've seen.
Okay.
I might have said this.
Trojan horsing her Matt Smith
I'm
critique.
slipping it in just from the tip, and we're gonna go further.
We're gonna dismember it and put it on a slab.
We're slipping in further now.
Okay.
I haven't seen a ton of his work, but I would always have trouble watching Matt Smith.
What?
Because do you notice when he acts, he kind of leads with his forehead?
He's very strong brow.
But he always does this, and when I was watching The Crown, I kept wanting to reach into the screen and like kind of chuck his chin upwards because I couldn't concentrate on what he was saying. I felt like I couldn't see his face, but here I could see his face. And I don't know if it's because he was playing more of like a regal character or something, but I was like, oh, that's what he looks like. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but he sold me. He sold me in the role, and I'm really excited because it looks like he's a kind of, multi-dimensional character. He could go either way. He's probably going to play the hero and villain at once, knowing, this kind of series. But yeah.
Heavy critique on Matt Smith's acting. I felt like he's always been a really great actor.
Again, I haven't seen much of his stuff.
I saw him on The Crown and I really liked him. I think he has a lot of poise. So like his character in The Crown, of course, is Queen Elizabeth's
consort, right? Yeah,
consort, Prince Philip, and
maybe there's a reason they cast him.
Yeah, but you'd think so, but they're very different. Prince Philip is very much poised, gentlemanly, noble, very lawful good, and then
this guy's chopping off penises.
Neutral, like chaotic neutral on a good day.
Yeah, on a good day, yeah.
And chaotic evil at some point. I know that they're gonna make him chaotic evil at some point.
You think so?
I mean, even the gold cloaks like ascending and raging havoc on the city, that was bordering on evil. That was basically
because
evil.
they were implying like some of those people you dismembered, they weren't actually criminals.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But he did it to prove a point. Like you can say loosely the neutral part comes from like, code of ethics or whatever. But the evil part comes in.
He's a loose cannon.
He's a loose cannon, but he also will stop at nothing to make a point about himself.
Right. Right. He's kind of got younger, or dare I say, middle child syndrome. He does. Not to trigger all you middle children, because
they're triggered already. They're sitting in therapy right now watching this episode.
Yeah, like, he also has younger child energy, younger sibling energy.
He does.
Kind of like, I'm acting out. I kind of want the attention too, right? Mm-hmm. And it's so funny. There's that scene where he's listening in on the council members, and someone says, "Oh, well, he doesn't want the throne."
And he like chuckles.
Here he is literally sitting on the throne when it's completely illegal to do that.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's another character also. Sorry, really quick. Graham Tavish, great actor. He's playing, I don't know who he's playing, but he's playing, I assume he's going to be some type of Ser Jorah equivalent. The guy who is kind of like, what does he do? He's Rhaenyra's like Ser Jorah type of guy. The one in the beginning who's like on his horse when she's coming down on the dragon. He's only in the episode like a couple times, but I know he's going to be an important character. Otherwise, they wouldn't have cast Graham Tavish. He's got this Scottish accent guy.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm really excited to see what
I don't remember him as much.
He's in it a few times, but I'm certain he's going to come into the story, and I can't remember how.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm excited for that guy.
Dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Let me see. Oh my gosh. There was mention of Dark Sister.
The sword, Dark Sister, yeah.
Okay, so do we know the history on that?
Dark Sister, I could be wrong, and if I'm right, we're keeping this in here. Dark Sister is the legendary sword that one of the sisters of Aegon the Conqueror was using when they came in and conquered Westeros.
And it's presumably Valyrian steel.
Yes, and it apparently has been passed on to Prince Daemon. So he has Dark Sister. So the reason I know Dark Sister is because Arya Stark, every now and then she'll whisper something about Dark Sister,
She's such
a fangirl. Yeah, you could tell she's a fangirl of these Targaryen women, right? So she knows about Dark Sister, the legendary sword. And I don't think they're bringing this sword in for nothing. I'm pretty sure it's going to play into the story.
I mean, Sonoya Mizuno's character basically says to Daemon, like, you are the wielder of Dark Sister,
Yeah.
Like, this is some kind of, like, cosmic significance. Once
That's
again,
right, she does say that.
Careful.
That's right. She does say that.
Anyway, so it goes back to my point about like rulers that tend to become more corrupt have this like I am the godsend mentality, right? Like this is something that we see in the Game of Thrones series where like the red comet shoots across the sky.
Yes.
Right?
And another abandoned plotline.
Daenerys looks up at the sky and she sees the comet and she's like, it is a sign of my coming.
Ooh!
Right? And like the Baratheon who the fuck? Not Renly, but Stannis.
Stannis
Stannis Baratheon.
Stannis the Manus.
And like Melisandre says to him, like, it is a sign of your coming.
Yes.
You know what I mean? All the people who fall think that they are close to the gods.
Right.
So there is in some ways a theme being drawn here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I really love people who are able to analyze Game of Thrones characters from a psychological standpoint. I mean, you gotta admit, there's personality disorders abounding throughout this cast of characters.
Attachment styles.
Yeah, narcissism, the dark triad, right?
Personality disorders.
Yeah, cluster A, B, and C.
Mental illness, yes.
It makes me wonder, like, how many of these people vying for the throne are actually guilty of being narcissists.
They really just want love.
Or maybe they're just Karens. Karens are very narcissistic and entitled. They're entitlement. Now, entitlement is not necessarily narcissism, but the two are often correlated, right? So it's clear that there's a lot of entitlement going on, like with Daemon, right? People who don't actually have the chops to fill out the role.
But here's the thing. It's like if Daemon were to get the throne, yeah, he'd have all the fun he could have in the world for it, right? But would he actually be a good ruler? Would he actually cause harmony in the kingdom? Like, it also goes down to, like, what would each specific ruler do if they were on the Iron Throne, right? That was the biggest question in Game of Thrones, and I think it'll be true here as well. You know, like, all these people who are flawed, who take with them their illnesses and their attachment styles and their personality disorders. I mean, seriously, like, what do they bring with them to the Iron Throne? You know, and how does that affect the health of the Seven Realms?
Well, we're just gonna have to find out.
Jen.
We're gonna have to do this a couple more times.
And the thing is, like, at the start of this series, they did mention that this is an era of peace, right? They've had an era of peace under King Viserys for quite some time.
Although the dragons are declining, right? There's not as many, and they're not as big as they used to be.
Right. I mean, like, since they've left, because, like, the dragons are from the east, right? They're not actually from...
They're from Valyria.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is like the Westeros equivalent of Atlantis. Like, sunk into the sea or something.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
But, yeah, basically, so Targaryens took them and bred them for... You know, and then, like, took them back here, and they're weakened because they're not wild anymore.
Right.
So, like, after this moment of peace, we're gonna go into a moment of war.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this is kind of the beginning of what sets the stage for Game of Thrones, because the distrust, the anarchy, the betrayal that goes into why the Seven Kingdoms start vying for the throne against each other is because of what happens now.
Right.
The destabilization.
But the wheel only continues, as we know with Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, this may be from season 5, but goddamn, that was a good scene when Daenerys said, "I'm here to break the wheel." Chills all over my body.
Chills. But did she actually break the wheel?
A conversation for another day, right?
Nosebleeds.
Yeah.
Nosebleeds abound.
I know who I'm cosplaying.
You are? Who?
No, I don't know. But I just know that I want to cosplay.
I know who I don't know I'm cosplaying.
I just know that I want to cosplay one of these motherfuckers at some point.
Dude.
Halloween? I don't know.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Alicent and Rhaenyra hanging out and being buddies really did remind me of...
me and you? I know.
Oh, no. God, no.
You're fucking my father? Jen, how could you?
Sweating. No,
I'm not.
No, it reminded me of Sansa and Marjorie Tyrell.
Yeah.
To some extent. But the thing is... the reason why, not because they're similar in character, but because the reason why is that it's kind of a beautiful moment of sisterhood that is torn apart by circumstance.
Yeah.
And, like, ultimately, the powers that drive them and control them are what cause them to make their connections superficial.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's just like, right now you see them and they're just girls, you know, they're hanging out, they really trust each other. But you know, down the line, like, the one true friendship that they have is going to be torn apart by
I was going to say,
intrigue,
I think presumably this one's going to be even more heartbreaking.
Definitely.
Because you can see that they've obviously been friends for a while. You know, they're almost like sisters. Honestly, when they were lying down in the grass, I was kind of wondering if this was like lesbian baiting, because I was kind of like, ooh, they would be a cute couple, right? But then I'm like, nah, the story wouldn't call for that.
The first part, when Rhaenyra steps off like the wagon and looks over at Alicent with kind of a smirk in her eye, I was like, hang on, is Rhaenyra like bi vibes? Like,
or were you just feeling bi vibes?
Anyway, I'm always feeling bi vibes. Just kidding. Anyway, but I honestly, that thought came to mind, so I was oh, is that happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who's to say, right? Like platonic love. Anyway,
I love it. No, we love to see it.
We love to see it. Boy, do we love to see it.
Right. They didn't have to, and I know this is, you know, very women focused, but they didn't have to focus as much on Rhaenyra as they did. But I really love that they kind of pitted her at the center of all this. That was, knowing what happens, they could have kind of just focused on other parties, but they're really focusing on her, and I really like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So, upcoming, we have something that's being hinted at, someone that we haven't met yet, the crab feeder, right?
Oh!
Drahar, the crab feeder.
The crab feeder. Why does that sound like it means something dirtier than it actually is?
I don't know, dude. That sounds like, some guy that performs oral sex.
But like, I didn't want to say it, but that's my thought when I first heard it.
To one too many women.
Prostitutes.
Yeah, anyway.
So that's who I'm cosplaying, the crab feeder.
Oh, the crab feeder?
Yeah.
We don't even know.
And we don't even know what they look like.
Anyway, he's just like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean with like tentacles coming out. Like,
actually, I totally missed.
really like crabs.
I kind of missed that part when they were talking about the triarchy or something like that. Do you recall what was going on there?
There was some kind of kerfuffle.
All I heard was crab feeder.
Well, there was some kind of kerfuffle happening, I think, in the Navy ports.
Yeah.
And they were saying that like this Drahar guy is basically kind of running amok and like killing all sorts of like pirates and things like that. Or it seems like he's taking power under his own hands.
Right.
Like, you know, mutiny or some shit. But basically it's like a canned can of worms for another day.
They bookmarked that one.
That one, and they were like, hey, by the way, you know.
So we're going to look forward to that in the next couple episodes.
Yeah.
What else are we looking forward to? Besides the pleasure of each other's company.
Oh, yes. Indubitably.
Uncle, is that you?
Speaking of Matt Smith's package, we saw him like banging a person from behind.
I like how, what's her name? Japanese girl.
Sonoya Mizuno.
Sonoya Mizuno was in it for a whole ass scene. A whole ass scene. And
she was in it for a lot of scenes.
No, but her very first scene, I did not know that was her because she was getting plapped from behind.
Right.
In darkness.
And he was like, do.
What's funny is he loses his boner and then she just like kind of picks him up and he just doesn't say anything for the whole scene. He's so defeated.
You know, it's actually, that's really interesting because you think...
It was a great scene.
Yeah.
No, it was
it's
a good
really
scene.
Interesting.
You think he's going to say something, but he doesn't need to say anything.
It also gives you dimension for his character because he could just be the mustache twirling Machiavellian kind of like narcissistic prince that just wants the love. But clearly he's suffering from some kind of wound from within.
Yeah, it's called erectile dysfunction.
Right. She has to reassure him of what his value is, right? She brings up Dark Sister. She brings up like his place in the court, you know, and she actually cradles his head in her arms. You remember that? And that was like kind of like a moment of vulnerability or weakness. Like she is one of the only people that he can actually be vulnerable around.
But that's also why I was getting Shay vibes. I know you were saying that she was more of a Roz, but for me, and again, I know he looks nothing like Tyrion and he's in many ways so different, but I also kind of get somewhat Tyrion vibes.
Okay. I got like Jaime vibes as well. Jaime Lannister.
Yes, maybe. I feel like Jaime Lannister doesn't really give a shit about not at all.
Well,
you know,
he's a mix of so many things. He's like a mix of Stannis, He's a mix of.
But the reason I think they're different is because Jaime is and always was the golden child, whereas Daemon is far closer to Tyrion in that aspect. You know what I mean? He's the black sheep.
Right.
So that's kind of why I saw it that way.
For sure.
But yeah, I wonder if they're gonna be like a couple or like, I don't know. We'll see.
I thought for a hot second that Daemon was going to for sure seduce Rhaenyra.
Was that
niece.
Not something that was kind of seducey, was it?
I guess so. But like, how will that change now that she is named the heir?
My guess is that he is going to try to marry her in order for him to stake a claim at the throne. Okay, right? That makes sense, doesn't it?
Marry her and then cause her death in some way, or
no? Because they'll be joint rulers, right? Like.
Is that what happens if a female ruler in an unprecedented?
It's unprecedented. Okay. So my guess is that he's going to be like, well, I'll co-rule with her because that will be far more accepted by the people, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining for our very first episode of Manic Pixie Screen Girls Reviews House of the Dragon, Episode 1. We will be reviewing other subsequent episodes of the show, as well as other shows and movies that we take interest in. If you have any suggestions for our channel, it's a very, very new channel, please feel free to drop us a message or to leave a comment down below.
Yes, and if you enjoyed our discussion tonight, feel free to follow both of us on social media, which you can see below.
I am on socials as @JenniferZhang. If you can spell it, you can find me.
And I am on socials as @Kaitlyn.faye.
All right. Thank you so much and have a crazy-tastic day.
Valar Morgulis.
Tagares. Donageris.
Yay!